Welcome to the very first episode of the Silver Screen Scarehouse with Lisa and Linnie. I'm your host, Linnie, and with me is my lovely co-host, Miss Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
So each time you visit us in the Scarehouse, we'll be reviewing 3 movies. We may not always agree, but as lifelong film fanatics, you'll get honest opinions from 2 different sides of the aisle, followed by an old-fashioned knives up, knives down final rating. This week, Lisa and I will be chatting about The Lazarus Effect, currently in theaters, as well as Miss Meadows and White Bird in a Blizzard, both available on Blu-ray DVD and various video-on-demand services. So first up is The Lazarus Effect, directed by David Gelb and starring Olivia Wilde, Mark Duplass, Donald Glover, and Evan Peters. The movie follows a group of medical researchers who think they have discovered the secret to bringing the dead back to life. But just what accompanies those who return from the dead when they come back? So, Lisa, what did you think of The Lazarus Effect?
Well, as somebody who watched Flatliners many, many, many times in the 90s, it felt familiar, but I'm old. So I feel like if you are coming to horror, then when you saw The Lazarus Effect, you would think, what a great idea this is. I've never seen this before. So, and for a movie that was released in the theater, I thought it was fun. I thought it was engaging, and it didn't go on too long. And, you know, I want to hear what you have to say, because when I was watching it, I kind of felt like I could hear everything that you were yelling at.
This is true. I totally wish I'd been alone in the theater, because I would have been yelling at the screen. Yeah, it felt like a combination of Frankenstein, Lucy, and The Exorcist, and not in a good way. Like, they even named Mark Duplass Frank, which didn't click for me until about halfway through, and I was scribbling it down. I was like, oh, shit. His name is Frank? Really? Like, oh, that really bugged me. I don't know. It felt Blumhousey, whatever. Like, it just, all those tropes were there. Like, they had the creepy dolls that were kind of unnecessary, the blacked out eyes. There were, what was my final tally? 16 jump scares from beginning to end. By the time I got to the end, I was just so frustrated. I was ready for it to be over. And I love Flatliners, so I was kind of interested to see how it would take that concept and go in a modern day direction with all of the medical technology we have now. But for me, it felt like a giant rehash of better movies. I don't know. I was frustrated.
I could see that. The jump scares, some of them worked on me, so
yeah, I don't think any of them worked on me.
Because you were mad.
Yeah, I was. I think I was prepared for all of them. That's the thing. Like, I kind of knew they were coming, so that made it harder. Plus, I mean, the minute I see Blumhouse, it's like, oh, jump scares. Sitting in my seat tighter. Like, I know they're coming. So, and then, of course, Donald Glover, who I adore. I've seen him in concert as his alter ego, Childish Gambino. Love him. They totally troped him. Like, he's the only black guy in the movie, and they killed him first. Like, really?
That's the law, Linnie.
There's no law. It's like, is it a Blumhouse law? Did they write that down somewhere? Like, okay, we're sticking with the tropes. Kill Donald first. Tough noogies. We don't care if people like him. And Evan Peters was a dick, man. Let me tell you.
I'm not really on the Evan Peters fan train like most people are.
No, nor I. I don't get the appeal. But he was a massive dick in this movie. However, watching him choke to death on his e-cig, I thoroughly enjoyed that, because I have imagined killing my ex-boyfriend the same way.
Well, then that must have been at least cathartic.
I did enjoy it. I had a good... People probably in the theater thought I was insane because I was laughing so hard watching him choke to death on his e-cig. Like, dude had it coming.
I think I enjoyed myself because I found it easy to sit there and just go with the ride and allow the jump scares to work and not annoy me. And that's why I'm more positive than negative towards it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm so frustrated with the jump scare bandwagon But anytime I go to a movie that has them, I'm immediately antagonistic towards it. And I really wanted to like this movie because I do thoroughly enjoy almost everyone involved in it. So I was not prejudging it by any means. It was just, I don't know. And then did you get the Frankenweenie feel from it? Like they were...
I haven't seen Frankenweenie since it came out the first time.
That's all I could think when they kept reviving the dog with the electricity. I was like, should Tim Burton be getting royalties on this movie?
Oh, yeah, and I didn't make that Frankenstein-Frank connection until you just said it. So clearly I wasn't paying attention.
So,
but I went after a long day of work, and so for me, that's why it was good. I went straight to the theater, and I just sat down, and it was a nice horror film. It didn't annoy me,
Yeah. I saw it with a theater full of teenage girls. I think maybe they made me more angry.
Well, that's fair.
That might have been the problem, too. I don't know. And there was another couple that was in there that was equally annoyed with the teenage girls, so.
I just didn't like the notion, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's almost like that drug becomes an actual drug, and that was hard for me to not giggle at.
Yeah.
But Mark Duplass was so good. I was a little worried that he wasn't going to be a straight guy very well, and we all know what I just meant by that.
Yeah.
He's just exceptionally wonderful all around, apparently.
He was really good in it. And see, like, as far as I know, I think I've seen most of his movies. And the only other experience I've seen with him in horror was Black Rock, and I hated that. And he wrote it. He wasn't actually in it. But
his wife did, right?
His wife starred in it, Katie Aselton, but I hated Black Rock. So I was kind of worried, I guess. Like, maybe he's just not cut out for horror. I'm still kind of concerned about that because I love him and everything else, but Olivia Wilde, she did do the whole creepy, unsettling demon person thing pretty well, though. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This movie was not for me at all. I struggled.
I totally understand that, and I would have to say, if a gun was put to my head, just watch Flatliners.
Yeah, exactly. I would have to agree. So, Flatliners, definitely. Go there if you really are desperate for a medical thriller, but if you want to see something in the theater and are desperate for a medical thriller, Lisa thinks you should see The Lazarus Effect. I think you should stay home and watch Flatliners.
I did both. You should do both.
Yeah, that's true enough. So our final rating on The Lazarus Effect: 1 knife up from Lisa, 1 knife epically down from Linnie. So next up, Lisa.
Next up, we have White Bird in the Blizzard. It is adapted from the novel of the same name, and it is brought to us by the indie bad boy, Greg. Will you pronounce his last name correctly for me?
Araki.
I always want to say things wrong. Greg Araki, you might know from Doom Generation. Or his last film was Mysterious Skin. So, set in 1988, starring Shailene Woodley, Eva Green, and Christopher Maloney, it's the story of a young girl who comes home and her mother is mysteriously missing. And how that affects her at such a young age as she's exploring her sexuality. And there's kind of a mystery thriller in the back of it. Linnie, what did you think?
I loved it. I was kind of... I guess my expectations going into it were pretty low, just because I felt like it was Greg Araki, who's kind of one of those indie bad boys. It was his attempt to go mainstream, so I was a little concerned, but I loved every minute of it. Ava Green makes everything amazing. She's just full-scale, full-blown Joan Crawford crazy face in it, and I love that. The mystery underlying it kept me engaged the whole time, and the rest of the performances besides Ava were fantastic. Chris Maloney is amazing as always. I love Shailene Woodley in things that aren't blockbusters. I think that she tends to shine far more in indie movies like this, like The Spectacular Now. Anything where she's not making a ton of money, I think she does really well. It's the supporting cast. Gabourey Sidibe's in it, and she's really cute. I think, and it's just an absolute nostalgia overload. If you grew up in the '90s, like it's just so much nostalgia between the music and the fashion and all of that. It's for me, it was just the full experience of slight romance kind of underlying it, but then this really creepy thriller, great performances. I was pleasantly surprised by White Bird in a Blizzard.
Well, and I misspoke. This is not his last movie since Mysterious Skin, but I guess I kept referencing Mysterious Skin while I was watching this because it felt, I guess, mainstream for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was also based on a novel, and it dealt with all the themes that we deal with growing up. Obviously, Mysterious Skin is a bit more insidious with the matter, but I just thought that this felt like a dream, and I liked the tone the whole time. And Eva Green really is the least predictable woman to be a suburban housewife, so it's totally believable that she would just up and leave one day.
Right, absolutely.
And then as it goes, further into the relationships, Christopher Nolan, he does a really impeccable job of dealing with the layers of his character and what was going on. Oh, and Shailene is just fantastic. She's fantastic, like she was fantastic in the George Clooney movie where she cried.
Yeah.
Yes, she cried underwater. So. Yes.
This is what I'm saying. Like, she does so much better in the indie films. I feel like she feels confined when she does these blockbusters. Because The Fault in Our Stars, you kind of know what you're getting into with it being a weepy kind of film. But even there, she felt kind of pushed down a little more. And when it comes to movies like this, she's so remarkable in what she can handle and how she displays herself as an actress. It's just night and day. Like, I don't plan to ever see her in a blockbuster movie again. I just don't see the point.
I don't think I've seen her. Her daughter was in her first acting job, so I just admitted to watching that show that I'm not going to name.
No, you can say it. This is a safe space. Secret Life.
No, what was it? The Secret Life?
Yeah.
Was it the name? Yeah. Anyway, I think she's underutilized because she's young.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She's young and she's beautiful, so I don't know that we believe she can do anything yet, despite the fact that she's proven to us that she can. So I didn't see The Fault in Our Stars because I'm still mad about reading the book. So Shailene, for me, actually has only a good track record. So
yeah, and The Fault in Our Stars was definitely a great adaptation, and the acting was fantastic. But again, it's technically a mainstream film, and not that White Bird in a Blizzard is so difficult to call mainstream because it's got that. No spoilers here. This is a spoiler-free space, but the Greg Araki ending, where you kind of don't see it coming, even if you know that there's a twist possibly coming, but it still catches you completely off guard. The ending's fantastic. Totally blew me away. It's a mainstream movie in that it has all these very mainstream actors, but there's still nothing mainstream accessible about it, which is why I think I liked it so much. And the visuals are beautiful too. The dreamscapes, gorgeous.
I think the reason we keep wanting to use the word. Do you want me to wait? My husband's cooking. Okay, so obviously we have to edit that.
Oh, that's fine.
I think we keep using the word mainstream because if you're not familiar with Mr. Araki, he is famous for doing the Teen Apocalypse trilogy that started in the 90s. And as I'd said previously, Doom Generation is the one most people have seen. Personally, my favorite was Nowhere, and the first one is totally fucked up. That's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
So his movies originally were just totally, they were cray-cray. And then all of a sudden, he slowly has matured into this really gorgeous storyteller.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Mysterious Skin is kind of a little, at least it was for me, when I was going to school, everybody talked about it because it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's not coming out in the traditional sense, but it was his coming out as a serious actor film. It was where we first got to see him as a serious dramatic actor. And it's a devastating movie. I mean, you kind of never forget it once you've seen Mysterious Skin. And that was what was interesting for me about White Bird in a Blizzard, is that none of that was there. None of that typical Greg Araki storyline was there until the very end. And it's like, oh, okay. I was so busy paying attention to this one thing, I didn't even think about this other thing. And, you know, spoiler-free language is so hard to navigate. But it's absolutely worth seeing. It's a really beautiful film.
For the book nerds out there, I read Mysterious Skin and White Bird in a Blizzard. I read Mysterious Skin first and then watched the film. And then because I watched White Bird in a Blizzard, I read the novel. And he has an uncanny ability to bring the feeling of a novel to the screen, and that's usually where most books fail.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I love about this film, is it feels like you're reading the book. It feels like a dream. You're kind of like in limbo, and it's very moody, but it's not depressing, but it's not super happy. It's just, it's everything.
I definitely have to read the book now. I'm curious. So that'll be next on my list. Well, officially then, kiddies, the Scarehouse rating for White Bird in a Blizzard, 2 knives up from both Lisa and Linnie. So watch White Bird in a Blizzard on Netflix today. Right now, immediately, as soon as the show's over. Go watch it. All right, so finally, we have Karen Lee Hopkins' Miss Meadows. Miss Meadows is a twee spin on the classic vigilante formula, played by a tap-dancing Katie Holmes. Miss Meadows follows a teacher who believes justice should be delivered properly and has no patience for those who would harm children. But will falling in love with the sheriff put a crimp in her plans to put an end to crime? So, Lisa, you know how I feel about Miss Meadows, so I want to hear your opinion.
So this was hard for me. Miss Meadows, it's Katie Holmes, who I love because she was Joey and she was married to my Tom. And if you just look at the poster, clearly she is my spirit animal. And no joke, I've always wanted to just wear tap shoes as normal shoes. And
I support that.
Yeah, and wearing gloves, I really think it's a tragedy of society that ladies no longer wear gloves. And so it's obviously it's everything. I think this is my movie, right?
Right.
And I had heard that you loved it, and I needed to put everyone's opinions out as I watched it. And it was twee, right. And I hate that word as much as I hate the movement. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe I'm tweed out.
Could be.
And I also just felt like, for somebody who's so sweet and lovely, why is it that she keeps coming across all of these predators in life? Because, I always say, if you keep coming across the same kind of people, you're the common denominator. So
right.
why, how is she inviting this cute, adorable girl? And then, no spoiler alert, as we've said a million times, but the reasoning behind why she chose this lifestyle was way too generic and cliche for me, and it kind of made me want to start kicking my furniture.
I can't really argue with that. I felt that the reveal of her history was a little rushed. I was a little disappointed in that. Yeah, this is one of those where it's really hard not to give a spoiler. But there's one particular element of her history that I did see coming from a mile away, and I did find that element disappointing. I felt like that could have been left out. It's related to her childhood and her mother. But see, for me, and this is what we've talked about before, I feel like I watch so many revenge films that just make me want to die, that I enjoyed that this one was more upbeat. It had a happy ending, relatively speaking. It is generally a very optimistic film. I've heard a lot of people actually complain about how did she keep running into all these bad guys? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And they do explain it in the film, but I think they kind of gloss over it. That she lives in a neighborhood where they have let all of these criminals out of prison and then lost track of several hundred of them. So it just so happens that they have all moved into her neighborhood. And it's a very easy storytelling plot device, but that is the explanation of why all these criminals are just magically living all around her. It's one of those movies that I feel like it's just a love it or hate it proposition. I don't really know if there's an in-between. I feel like, and I said this in my review on the Horror Honeys, it's like Zooey Deschanel and her ukulele wrote a movie together.
Oh my God. No, that's worse than what I think.
It's just so perky. I mean, that's really the only way to describe it. And she's so in the wrong era. She's so 1940s in her cute little dresses and her tap shoes and her perfect little purse gun, which actually I hate guns, but she kind of made me want to carry one like that because it's so tiny and useful.
It's very ladylike, yeah.
It is. It's a very ladylike gun. And the love story, at first I was frustrated that was how they anchored the plot, but then it kind of made sense that of all the men for her to fall in love with, it ends up being the sheriff who is kind of catching on to her vigilante ways. I don't know. It's one of those movies that I feel like I don't know if there's an in-between on it.
I might be in between. Like, I'm willing to watch it again. I almost feel like this might be something that I would watch incessantly, and it might become like a Mommy Dearest or something, where
That's
it's just
fair. Yeah.
so absurd that I think it's the best thing ever.
That's what I do with Mommy Dearest.
Yeah, because I think my biggest problem with it, and I understand because you do watch a lot of revenge films, and those tend to be really gritty and awful, so I could see how this was a ray of sunshine, but for me coming into it, the reasoning behind it was stupid. The explanation, as you said, everything was too easy. And then even the love story was cute, but it was all completely unbelievable. Like, he's not going to do that.
Right.
I don't care how good in bed she is. And
that scene was so awkward. There's a sex scene in the film. This isn't a spoiler. And she just giggles the whole time they're having sex. I cannot imagine a guy that would be like, yeah, this is cool. Just laugh at me while we're doing it. That's fine.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. And there was no explanation for why she was so... I mean, was this set in a different era and I didn't realize it? Because I was under the impression it was set in modern day, and she just, for whatever reason, chose to act like somebody from the 40s. But if it is modern day, then her mom wouldn't be from the 40s. Right.
It was modern day, and she was just from the wrong era. Like, she just behaved as if she were from the 40s. So yeah, they never really set up Jean Smart plays her mother. They never really set up the generation with which she and her mother interacted. Like, was her mother the same way? You kind of never got a feel for that. So again, without giving away too much, you don't get a feel for them together too often. They're always speaking on the phone. So it's
a landline. I'd like to put in a landline. She's speaking on a phone that's attached.
A landline, yeah. That definitely was odd. I don't think I've seen a phone attached to a wall like that in anyone's house in a decade.
Oh, I think that's the phone I had when I was 8 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I think my grandmother has a phone like that.
Right.
The phone glued to the wall that you have to get up and run every time the phone rings. Yeah.
I wanted to love it, and maybe that was my problem. I wouldn't not recommend it, but there was so many things that I found easy to tear apart.
Right. Yeah, I think that would limit your enjoyment of the film. I think I just allowed myself to get completely lost in it, and that made a difference for me. But again, every once in a while when you're constantly being shat on by movies, it's nice to have somebody hand you a flower. Like, here,
absolutely.
Have a nice day. Thank you for watching. I'm just like, oh.
It's very cute. It's a very cute movie. It's very pretty. She's cute. She's adorable. I'd like to have her entire wardrobe.
Yeah. And this is the thing for me. I don't even care for Katie Holmes. Like, I don't at all. I softened to her during her hostage situation with Tom Cruise. But, I've never been her biggest fan, so I don't think I've seen a movie with her in it since disturbing behavior, I guess.
That's a terrible movie.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful.
What was it, Pieces of Alice?
Oh, you know what? I did see that. That was still in college, though. So that was a while ago. I haven't seen anything she's done since.
Wait a minute. I was just trying to think. You know where I stopped judging her was The Ice Storm.
God, how long ago was that, though? How long? When did that movie come out?
Well, 10,000 years ago, but I feel like she's like Shailene in the sense that she's young and cute, and so it's easy to write her off. But then if I remind you, hey, she's that stupid bitch in The Ice Storm.
This is true. I mean, she's not a terrible actress. She has made some decent films, but she just always got under my skin. So this is the first film I think I've seen with her in it since I was in college. So, well, in the end, I think the rating, your final Scarehouse rating for our inaugural episode, Miss Meadows gets a split rating, 1 knife up from Linnie and 1 knife down from Lisa. Though Lisa thinks you might still want to watch it. So,
what? Yes.
Yeah.
It's rare for me to say never ever watch something.
Exactly. I try not to do that, but it happens occasionally. I don't like to encourage people's self-destructive behavior if it's something really bad.
Right. Yeah, no, Miss Meadows is just, knife down. I expected a singing, dancing Grace Kelly, and that's not what I got.
That's a valid reason for a knife down. No arguments here. So thank you, Darklings, for joining us on our very first episode of the Silver Screen Scarehouse. If you'd like to chat with us about any of the movies we reviewed today, you can find Lisa on Twitter. I'm at LCFREMONT. Or you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Linnie Loohoo, LINNIELOOWHO. If you have a movie you'd like us to queue up in the Scarehouse, drop us a comment below or let us know on Twitter. Stay stabby until the next time and have a great week.